Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here today. I hope that you all are having a wonderful Wednesday. The sun is out, and I hope it's out where you are as well. My name is Shalonda Griffin, and I'm a community relations coordinator here at Gift of Life Michigan, where we honor life through donation. And this is the month of March, and March is also National Kidney Month. So today we are going to discuss kidney health, as well as hear from a kidney recipient and a living kidney donor. Now, if you have watched our live streams before, and hopefully you have, then you know that we love questions and comments here. So please feel free to drop those questions and comments in our comment section. And also, if you know someone who would benefit from this program, who you think would enjoy watching this live stream, but they can't tune in right now, I would encourage you to like and share this video so that they can watch at a later date. Now, I have some amazing guests today. I can't wait to get into their stories. But before we get started, I want to give you all a few facts about chronic kidney disease, and they're pretty sobering. The first one is that 37 million Americans over the age of 20 have chronic kidney disease, which is also known as CKD, and that does include kidney failure. More than a million, or 1 in 7 adults in Michigan, have chronic kidney disease, and most of them don't even know it. And diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure in this country, and high blood pressure is the second leading cause. Now, we're going to go to our intro, but when you come back, we're going to introduce you to Nurse T, who can talk to us a little bit more about chronic kidney disease. All right. Now, I would like to introduce you to our first guest, Tarnisha Martin, who is affectionately known as Nurse T. Hi, Tarnisha.
Hi, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, Tarnisa is a registered nurse in Hurley Medical Center's Patient Resource and Community Advocate. Did I get that title right? It's a mouthful.
You absolutely did.
Yes, you're here with us in Flint, Michigan at Hurley Medical Center. And once again, just thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, I know that you're out in the community pretty much every day. You are probably one of the hardest working people out here discussing ways that we can stay healthy in our community. So I'm going to just jump right into this conversation about kidney health. First of all, can you tell us, what do the kidneys do? How do they help keep us healthy?
Absolutely. Our kidneys are responsible for filtering waste through the blood, using tiny filters called nephrons and flushing them out of the body through urine.
Okay. So when we urinate, our kidneys are doing most of the work with that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, getting all that waste out of us. Now, I mentioned earlier that uncontrolled diabetes and uncontrolled high blood pressure are the two main causes of kidney failure here in this country. What else can put a person at risk for kidney failure? If you don't have either of those things, are you out of the woods or not so much?
Heart disease, obesity, family history of chronic disease, inherited kidney disease or disorder, past damage to your kidneys in older age.
Okay.
So even though the diabetes and the hypertension are the most common, is those other ones are just as severe.
Okay. Now, we're using the term chronic kidney disease, but for someone who might not be familiar with that term, what exactly is chronic kidney disease?
When we look at chronic kidney disease, we look at how our kidneys are no longer doing the job that they are being required to do. They are no longer filtering urine, and it may be at the time now to where you may consider dialysis or kidney transplant. Because remember, our kidneys are filtering our urine through the body, and when you start getting chronic kidney disease, you're not you're not having any urine, or you're having very limited urine.
Okay. Now, what are the symptoms of chronic kidney disease?
Okay, so actually, there's a lot of symptoms of chronic kidney disease, but the one thing that I do want to say about kidney disease is that it's like a silent, it's almost like hypertension. They call hypertension the silent killer. Kidney disease is almost like a silent killer as well, because it's not something that you notice right away. It just kind of like creeps up on you when you start not feeling well. You may be having chronic kidney disease, but it's some of the signs. If you do have nausea and vomiting, fatigue, shortness of breath, swelling in your hands, leg, and feet, mental confusion, metallic taste in your mouth, muscle cramps, trouble sleeping, too much or too little urine, itchy or irritated skin. Now, a lot of these can be isolated or a lot of these can be together, but it's something that you will commonly notice. Now, if you have some of these symptoms, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have been diagnosed, but what it does mean is that you need to go to your healthcare provider and share your concerns with them so that they can run tests to see if you actually have kidney disease, because it has to be diagnosed through a medical physician. I know a lot of times we try to self-diagnose,
Mhm.
but we can't self-diagnose that.
Okay. I agree with the self-diagnosis. There was a time when my doctor literally told me, please stay off Google, just come see me. Now, just because a person has chronic kidney disease or CKD doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to go to dialysis the next day, right?
Right.
Because there are actually 5 stages of chronic kidney disease. Can you tell us about each one of those stages, please?
Yes, so there are 5 stages of kidney disease, and one thing is understanding the GFR, which is the glomerular filtration rate, is understanding those numbers. Numbers play a significant in everything. So
Mhm.
every time you hear me say, know your numbers. So stage one. So well, let me back up. So normal is like above 90, from 90 to 120. So if you go to the doctor and he do a test, a GFR on you, and you're 90 to 120, you're good. But now if you're 90 or higher, you might have 90, start being around 90. You might have mild kidney damage, kidney work well, that's normal. If your numbers are 60 to 89, you might have mild kidney damage and kidneys can still work. If you're 45 to 59, which is stage three, the 60 to 89 was stage two. Stage three is 45 to 59. 59, you might have mild to moderate kidney damage. Kidneys don't work as well as they should. Stage four is when your numbers are really starting to trend down. You're 15 to 29, and now you have severe kidney damage. Kidneys are close to not working at all. So when you make it to stage five, which is when your GFR is 15 or less, and that's most severe kidney damage. Kidneys are very close to not working or have stopped working. So it's very important to understand the 5 stages. So and remembering stage one is 90. If you start at 90, once you start progressing, hitting 90, 90 should be
Mhm.
awareness. But then
Okay.
the lower you go, you should start being, concerned and making sure you're following up with your physician. But once again, this
Oh, I think we froze up a little bit. All right. Well, we're having a little technical difficulty because we're online and those sort of things happen. And while we'll come back to Nurse T, and I'm going to talk to Miss Sonia Cook. We'll have her go ahead and join us. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Shalonda. How are you today?
I am great. How are you today?
Wonderful. All is
Fan-
well.
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I really do appreciate it. Now, Nurse T was talking to us about the different stages of chronic kidney disease. And she did mention that by the time a person reaches stage 5, when they are at stage 5, more than likely they're going to be on dialysis, and they could also be put on a waiting list for a kidney transplant. I would like to have you share your story with our viewers, please, because you actually did deal with dialysis and kidney transplant. Could you tell us about that, please?
Of course, I can. Anytime that I can share my story is a blessing to me. I was working every day at one of the major hospitals here in the Detroit metro area. I got up to go to work that particular morning, and I was at the time 2 months pregnant. So, you urinate a lot when you're pregnant. And I thought that maybe I had already gotten up and fell back to sleep. I didn't know what was going on, but I couldn't urinate. So the first thing I did was, my mom was living at the time. I asked her, I said, well, do you remember me getting up to, go to the bathroom? She says, no. I said, okay. I said, well, I've been up an hour and I haven't urinated. An hour and a half passed. I started to get worried. I went in to the hospital and found out that I could not urinate at that time. Urinary retention had set in. But I want to back up a little bit, Shalonda. I
Okay.
found out that I had kidney disease from a doctor's appointment. When I was working, I had a very bad headache. So I went in and my doctor said my blood pressure was extremely high. When I went in, she didn't understand why my blood pressure was high, why it was elevated. So she wanted to run more tests. She was scared that something may be going on with my kidneys, which I had never had any kidney problems or anything, but she was a great doctor. She took lab work. She called me the next day and she says, I'm going to schedule you with a nephrologist. I went to the nephrologist and found out that I had IgA nephropathy, which is an underlying kidney disease. I was okay. The doctor told me that if I watched my diet, if I did the right things, I would have a pretty productive life. And he would definitely watch it. I ended up getting pregnant maybe about a year or 2 years after that. And that's when I started having problems. So back to the story of the morning where I could not urinate. I go to the hospital. They don't know what the problem is. They send me home with a catheter. On my 3rd month of being pregnant, I go into labor with my daughter. I go to the hospital. They put me on bed rest. I ended up on bed rest for almost a month and a half. I went into labor again. I ended up having my daughter at 23 weeks, 5 months. She weighed 1 pound, 1 ounce. 2 days later, they found out that I was in total kidney failure. I lost all kidney failure. I had to end up with an emergency access, go on dialysis, and they thought that it would restart my kidneys, but it did not. So now I am dealing with a daughter, a newborn, who is in the neonatal intensive care unit. And I'm trying to fight for my life as well. Everything was just scary. It was very scary.
I bet. That's a lot.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I ended up getting an access so that I could take dialysis because my kidneys never did restart. With some individuals, they can take dialysis for maybe a day, a week or two, or maybe longer, and their kidneys will restart. But mine did not do that. I went on dialysis, and through the whole process, Ms. Yolanda, things were just a blessing for me. Where most individuals, they dialyze from 3 hours or more. I was so good that sometimes I could dialyze for 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And that was definitely a blessing.
Did you go in center for dialysis or did you do it at home?
I did.
That's an option as well. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I did in-center dialysis, which I liked in-center dialysis. I didn't want to do it at home because I took care of my grandmother 10 years prior to my incident. And it was just too much to watch her like that. And I felt more better there. Yeah, and went into the center. So I stayed on dialysis approximately 3 years. I was on the transplant list and I received that call. I never will forget that call. They called me and told me that a 2-year-old baby, no, they didn't tell me it was a 2-year-old baby. I apologize. They told me that a young child had passed away and that they wanted me to come in at a certain time because everything had cross-matched and she would be my donor. I could not understand for the life of me how I could accept kidneys from a 2-year-old baby that had lost her life because I knew that her parents were suffering.
Mhm.
My child was 2 at the same time as well. It took 3 calls from my transplant coordinator to convince me that this was the right decision. Because in my heart and soul, I could not understand it. And to this day, it is definitely bittersweet.
Mhm. I imagine that has to be really hard because, like you said, you also had a 2-year-old. They
Yes,
still have so much more to do and experience. So that had to be really challenging.
very challenging, Shalonda, very challenging. It's one of the toughest things other than having my daughter and her being born severely premature and having a transplant, and receiving them. And I always tell my story, Miss Shalonda,
Hmm.
but I would like to also let everyone know that my donor was loved. She was 2 years old. She was adopted from China. Her name was Lin May. She loved to cheer. She had a cheer outfit because they wanted her to someday maybe attend MIT.
Okay.
And I'm so thankful for her family and her loved ones for making that donation for the gift of life.
Hmm. That is that's thank you so much for sharing that story with us, Sonia. Now, you still have that relationship with your donors family, Lin May. Am I getting that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you shared earlier that it has been 18 years since you've received your transplant. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. This past Sunday was 18 years for me. The date was 3505. And I have 2 pediatric kidneys from Lin May.
Mm. Now, I believe you have a photo of Lin May that you wanted to share with the audience so that we can all remember this beautiful little girl in the short time that she was here. She made a huge impact on the lives of so many people.
Yes, she did. Yes, she
Mhm.
did. And I have 2, as a matter of fact. The first one is a calendar from the Gift of Life that shows Lin May. I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
Right there in the red by your
Yeah, I
left.
apologize.
Yes.
Yes,
we
she was on a Gift of Life calendar in 2008.
Okay, she's
And
beautiful.
yes, very beautiful. And this is a larger picture of Lin May, if you can see her.
We can.
Okay. And thank you so much for letting me share that, because a lot of times I don't, I tell my story
Mhm.
and I want to make sure that others understand how I got here.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you so much for remembering and sharing Lin May with us as well. I'm so glad that you have that relationship with her family and that she doesn't just live within you with her kidneys, but she also lives within your heart. And thank you so much for sharing her with us. I do have one more question for you, though.
Of course.
So, your life post transplant, 18 years later. Now, I am sure there were things that you were unable to do during that 3-year period that you were on dialysis. What is something that you've been able to enjoy post transplant that you weren't able to enjoy then?
Shalonda, the one thing that I can think of, and a lot of people may not even understand it, I can drink as much water as I want. And that is a feeling like nothing else,
Mhm.
because your fluids are limited. Your diet is limited. And that is the one thing that I can do. I have more energy. I have underlying issues as well, other underlying issues as well. So they prevent me from doing a lot of things that I want to do. But since the transplant, my life has definitely turned for the better. And as an ambassador, as a child of God, I am truly thankful. And any time that I can share my story, I love to share my story. And if I can say one thing to the audience, I ask them to please advocate for themselves, whatever type of health condition that they may have, or their families or friends may have. Please be an advocate for yourself. And also share this conversation, please, with your family and friends. Because if you're in a position and you're in need of an organ donation or skin donation or whatever it may be, think about it. Are you willing to accept that from someone else? And are you willing to be a donor yourself?
Thank you so much for that heartfelt message. You summed it up. I know I told you I had one final question, but I actually have one more question before we end. How's your daughter doing today?
My daughter is doing wonderful. By her being severely premature, she suffers from some vision loss and some other things, but she is doing absolutely well. She's 20 years old. She's productive. She's in the process of taking some classes. So I'm very proud of her. And I thank you so much for asking about her.
Of course. Thank you so much for giving us that update. God bless her. Thank you so much. All right, Sonia, we're going to send you backstage for just a moment. We're going to talk to you a little bit later, but I want to tell you all some more facts about organ donation since Sonia shared that beautiful story of receiving a kidney transplant 18 years ago. Now, in case you don't know, one deceased donor has the potential to save up to 8 lives through organ donation. And most donors do save lives after their death, but it is possible to save lives while you are still here. You can become a living donor. People who are living may give a portion of their liver, a lobe of their lung, or a kidney. Now, potential donors are carefully screened for any sort of possible risk during surgery and later in life. And those who qualify can live healthy and long lives. I've met people who are living kidney donors, and they've told me that they honestly have forgotten that they've done this. They might have a little small scar that reminds them, but their quality of life has not been affected. Now, by offering one of those organs to a loved one or a friend, it gives them an alternative to waiting on the transplant list for a deceased donor. Now, just an FYI, here in the state of Michigan, the average wait to receive a kidney from a deceased donor is 3 to 5 years. And that's a very long time for someone to have to depend on dialysis for a machine to keep them alive. So we really would like to encourage more people to think about living donation. Now, I'd like to bring Jocelyn Reed into this conversation. Jocelyn is the project and office manager at Donate Life America in Virginia, and she is a living kidney donor. Now, Jocelyn is unable to join us today due to a prior engagement, but she was kind enough to send a pre-recorded video to us of her story. So we'll go ahead and play that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Reed, and I am a living donor. I donated a kidney to my brother over 10 years ago. I'm also on staff at Donate Life America. I work with an amazing team there, and Donate Life America, for folks that don't know about who we are, we educate the public about the need for organ, eye, and tissue donation. And what a wonderful place to be, finding out that my brother needed a kidney. Back in 2008, 2009, my brother was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease. And I'm not one who is really up on par with all the medical terminology and all of that stuff. So I'm just going to give it to you like I know it. And so he was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, and he kind of like moved through the stages of progressing to dialysis kind of quickly. And so in 2009, he went on dialysis. And for me, just being on staff at Donate Life America, I had some, some background knowledge about dialysis and living donation and those types of things. So that really helped me a lot to help him as he moved through this process. He was put on dialysis, and in the meantime, the transplant center where he was listed, they were very, I don't know what the right word is, but hands-on, as far as his, progressing through dialysis, and the opportunity for living donation, was posed to him. And, of course, he said, yeah, I'll consider it. And so, his transplant coordinator reached out to all of my family members. We are five. I have four siblings, and I'm the baby in the bunch, if you will. And so my sisters and my brother both were tested to be a living donor for him. I was tested as well. After the testing process, we found out that I was the best match for him out of my other three siblings. And so, his story, as far as getting a transplant and me being a donor for him, like it moved pretty fast. And so like he was on dialysis for maybe like 6 months. And then we progressed to me being tested and going through all those testings that I had to go through to ensure that, I was doing no harm to him, that I was medically, that I was medically and mentally prepared for donating a kidney to him. So again, the process moved pretty fast. And in I think the end of August or October, we found out that everything was matching for him to receive my kidney. We were set for transplant maybe like the week after Thanksgiving, like the end of November. So we went in, of course, like the day before or the night before the surgery. Like I was a little nervous. But I had great support. I have, as I said, my siblings who were great support for me. My middle sister, her pastor at the time, sent me this lovely message, and the basic what it said was like, I am my brother's keeper. And it kind of gave me pause, and it gave me calm, and I was like, okay, we can do this thing. And so like we all my family went with us to the day of the transplant. And, my brother was in one room, I was in another room, and they moved back and forth, just checking in on us and so forth. And so, for me, it was a lot of fanfare, a lot of interviews and people there and the family there to support and all of that. But the staff was very, very gracious and professional, and worked through our all the things that we had to get hooked up to and all of that. And so we were wheeled into surgery. My kidney was removed. One of them, I call her Emanuela, and it was transplanted into my brother. And once it was transplanted into my brother, I called her Emmanuel, and that always means God with us. And so, we went through the surgery, everything went fine. My brother, and I'm just going to be graphic, he was able to use that kidney and pee, within, a few hours out of the recovery thing. And so, I was again, we were on the same wing, but we were of course, in separate rooms. And so like my recovery, I was only in like the hospital for about 3 days, and then I came home. But in the meantime and in between time, like I am a prankster. I like to joke. I like to laugh. And so like there were times when I would pick up the phone and call his room and say, hey, I want my kidney back, things like that, just to keep it keep it light, keep it moving. And so again, my brother is doing well. It's been over 10 years since I donated my kidney to him. And we are a close-knit family. So we still argue, we still fuss, we still have our disagreements, but bottom line, I am my brother's keeper. And so that's basically it. Again, I'm not one for a lot of medical terminology and that kind of thing. But what I do want to say here is living donation. It's an awesome opportunity to give a gift to someone. And I'm sure most people know somebody that either is on a transplant waiting list, somebody who is on dialysis, a friend, a family member, somebody in your community, in your faith-based community, in your Facebook community or your social media community. Somebody that is in need of a transplant. And I'm saying all of this to say that it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't, people say, it was courageous. No, it wasn't. It was just, an act of kindness, if you will. And I am my brother's keeper. And so, a lot of people, have asked me questions about the recovery time. My life, didn't change a lot. I went back to work after about 4 weeks of recovery. I still enjoyed my life, as I had before, the transplant. So nothing changed, as far as I didn't have to do any special diet or, of course we all need to, watch what we eat and salt intake and sugar intake and all of that, but nothing really changed for me. And so I just encourage everyone who is even considering a living donation to read more about it. You can read that information from our website, donatelife.net. My email address is going to be available if anyone has any questions about the living donation process, the recovery. I am here to help anyone who has those kinds of questions. A big question that a lot of people face, or a stopping point for some people, is that finances, like cost. And so there are programs out there that are there to assist with any, if your work doesn't have paid time off or paid sick leave or things like that. I encourage you to contact the Living Donor Assistance Center. They're there to help with cost and those types of things if you're not if your work doesn't provide that kind of coverage for you. And so it's not it was no big deal to me. I said it was no big whoop, and it wasn't, because again, I am my brother's keeper. I wish I had a photo to throw up of him, a current photo of Michael. He is my biggest supporter and also my biggest critic. So and that's how we roll as sister and brother. So that's it. Again, call or email me if you have questions about living donation. And again, please consider registering as a living donor. And again, you can find information about living donation as well as registering a decision to be a donor or inquire about living donation from that website. So thank you for your time. And again, I'm here if you have questions.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for sending that video over. We really do appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing your story of living donation. Hopefully, or maybe you have touched someone who is watching or listening who may have a friend or a family member who is in need of a transplant and has maybe been thinking about becoming a living donor. Jocelyn's information, her contact information, has been scrolling at the bottom of our screen. We'll put it back up there again in case you would like to reach out to her and ask her any questions about her experience. Now, I'd like to share a few more facts about chronic kidney disease before we bring Nurse T back. Here are some facts that I recently learned. African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans and Native Americans are at an increased risk for developing chronic kidney disease. African Americans are 4 times more likely to develop kidney failure because of diabetes than Caucasians. And African Americans are also 6.5 times more likely to develop kidney failure because of high blood pressure. Now, we'll bring Nurse T back. I was wondering if maybe she could speak to some of those facts. Why are African Americans and just multicultural communities in general at more of an increased risk for CKD?
I think it has to play with a lot of the resources and the lack of resources that we have. And I think early on, when we look at all of our old norms and our old behaviors, we ate healthy, but we probably didn't eat the best foods because our definition of healthy was probably a lot different than the standard way of being healthy. Like, I remember my grandmama, frying chicken, mashed potatoes, and greens. But the thing about it is back then we had portion size, and we went outside and we exercised and we played outside.
Mhm.
Whereas now we have high rates of obesity, we have high rates of depression, we have a lot of social determinants of health. I mean, we have a lot of historical trauma. We have a lot of fears when it comes to healthcare. There's health literacy. We don't know a lot of the medical information and the medical conditions and how they severely impact us. It's a lot of things that plays into this. It's sad, it's really sad because even being out there educating, every time I educate or deliver a message, I'm always sharing the statistics of how we are higher in any particular area. So it's sad, and I'm just sitting here thinking, trying to, what message do you leave to the community, and to think about, is it too late? Because sometimes when you get older, like we hear all of the signs and symptoms and the risk factors. If you're older, if you're obese, if you have hypertension, well, we look at now hypertension being one of the main contributing factors for kidney disease. A lot of us have hypertension. A lot of us have a lot of stress in our life.
Mhm.
A lot of us have depression in our life. It's a lot of things that's contributing to hypertension, and that's putting us on multiple medications. And then when you look at the multiple medications, and then you got to look at the compliance. Are we compliant because we have comprehension, or are we not compliant because we don't have the resources and we really don't like the side effects of what the medications is doing to our bodies? So it's a lot of things that plays into all of this. But the one thing that I will say is that we have to start, and we have to start now. We have to address all of our historical traumas. We have to address our fears, and we have to put in practices, and so that we can become better version of ourselves where we are at right now. We can't take back the past, but we have to begin to understand what can we do to be healthy. And especially like when it comes to kidney disease, it sneaks up on you. But what is one thing we can do? We can watch our weight and exercise and eat better, but we can go to the primary care physician and ask questions early. A lot of times when we go to the physician, do we ask them, how is our kidneys doing? We don't just randomly ask, because sometimes you just don't randomly test, but having those crucial conversations and becoming an advocate, like, how are our kidneys doing? I was listening to her story, she couldn't urinate, which is almost a late sign, but she caught it early, so.
Yeah, those are some very, very valid points. Thank you so much for addressing those. We do appreciate it. I do have a couple more questions for you. The first one I have is a comment from a viewer, Tina Kelly. She says, is it normal to have a diagnosis of chronic kidney disease after being a kidney donor 29 years ago? My doctor says it's normal since I only have one kidney now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That could be based upon her history and that she's already experiencing that. But I will write down that question and look it up and then give her the facts on it because I want to make sure I answer her correctly.
Okay, thank you so much. Tina will address your question most likely via Facebook. We'll find out for you. Thank you so much, Tarnisha. Another thing too, I wanted to ask you. I know Sonia mentioned that when she was put on dialysis, it was thought that maybe that would cause her kidneys to bounce back. So if someone is maybe at stage 3 of chronic kidney disease, do they have an opportunity to make some lifestyle changes and cause their kidneys to revert to how they were before they got to that stage?
I would say just probably like once you go on dialysis, I haven't seen it. I've been a nurse for 22 years and I have cared for patients that have went to dialysis. And normally when patients are on dialysis is normally when they're at stage 5. And they're just being compliant with their treatment and they're maybe on the transplant list. But that's something that I will definitely look into and see. Because I don't want to say I think a lot of things, some things could be reversible, but then I think some things are just being at a place of acceptance and making sure you're following the doctor's orders, like making sure you're following the diet, your medications, that you understand your medications and you're taking your medications. Since you mentioned dialysis, I know one thing that's very prominent with dialysis and within our community is that sometimes our patients skip dialysis. I know we used to have a lot of patients that would skip dialysis and then they would come in, through the emergency room and overload. And that's not good, or they would go because they wanted to continue. And I'm not judging. They wanted to continue to drink or do whatever it was that they were wanting to do because they didn't want to be deprived of their life.
Mm-hmm.
But they paid for it the next couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to encourage people who maybe are dealing with dialysis or maybe dealing with any sort of health issue to please try their best to be compliant, to work with their medical team. Just do everything that you can to help take care of you. Now, I'm sure I speak for everyone here when I say that I hope our viewers never have to deal with chronic kidney disease. What are some tips you can share with us when it comes to taking care of our kidneys?
Well, one thing is smoking. I know to reduce tobacco use, or if you haven't started, don't start. Making sure you're monitoring your caffeine intake. I know a lot of times we like our morning coffee and those Coke Pops, but caffeine is really not good for us. If you have diabetes and you have hypertension, making sure that you are managing your diabetes and your hypertension, exercising, and I would think the best prevention or just being able to know about it is being familiar and educated on it. Because when you're educated and you understand exactly what your kidneys do, the value of your kidneys, and then you'll start paying more attention to your body. And I don't say that in a condescending way. I say it just from experiences now and being transparent. Being out in the community literally has changed my life. Like I've really started, and I've been a nurse for 22 years. So it's like I'm paying attention to every organ in my body. And I'm actually and literally asking, God for forgiveness because I didn't always value my heart. I didn't value what my heart done. I didn't value my lungs, my kidneys. And And when you look at it from a different perspective of what can happen and what we have the opportunity to do to help, it's just amazing. So those would be some of the things that just the normal, diet, exercising, eat what you can that's healthy, moderation, watch your salt intake. And one thing, try not, I know it's hard, especially after the pandemic, but if we can reduce stress and depression is like at the
Oh, did we lose her? Did she freeze
trying to
up
do
on?
things
There
that
she is.
reduce stress.
Okay. Yeah, that stress can really do a doozy on your body. It doesn't just affect your emotional or mental health. It affects everything. So I co-sign that, doing all that we can to make sure that stress does not overtake us. Thank you so much for those tips. We're going to bring Sonia back to the stage as well. And I just want to ask both of you if you have some final thoughts. If there is one thing that you can share with our viewing audience, what would that be? And before you tell me that, Deborah Deering does say thank you for sharing your story, and I co-sign that. Thank you so much, Sonia, and thank you so much, Tarnisha, for being here today. You are both amazing and so informative. But what are your final thoughts?
I'm emotional right now. It's not often that I'm filled with tears because I try to hold it, but I still remember the first day I was at work and I had to prep my first patient getting ready for a transplant. And the excitement, but also the compassion for the donor or the person
Yes.
that didn't make it. Um, I can honestly say thank you, Miss Sonia, for sharing your story, and the other lady for sharing, her story of being a donor. This has literally blessed me, and it has validated the reason why I fight so hard for our community to be healthy.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I'm just honored, and I just thank God for the opportunity for us to be able to come together. And I just thank God that we are finally in a place to where, the Black and Brown community, the everything that has been severely impacted in our community, that we can really come together and address it and become aware of it so we can make better choices. So
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm just humbled.
Yes. Yes. Could not agree more. It's beautiful. Sonia, do you have some final thoughts?
Ms. Tarnisa, thank you. I would like to thank the Gift of Life for the platform and letting me share my story. If everything that I've been through helps one person, then my soul is well with that. God has given me another opportunity, which He gives me plenty of opportunities, but He's given me an opportunity to speak. He's given me a platform to share His glory. I'm thankful for that. And I will repeat to others, always advocate for yourself. Please, if you feel that something is wrong, if you know deep in your heart, in your soul, that that pain is not right, that that sore won't go away, whatever it may be, keep digging. Never take no for an answer. If that physician is not giving you the answers that you need, go somewhere else. Seek another opinion. And I just ask that the public will share my story with others and their families and just think about organ donation today and what it means. And please, my community that I speak to on a daily basis, start somewhere, anywhere, to be better, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I echo Tarnisa's sentiments of I am just so humbled and so honored to be in this space with you all today. And I thank both of you and Jocelyn from the bottom of my heart that you were able to spend this Wednesday afternoon with us. Deborah says, thank you for all that you do. And I'm sure that is to both of you because you're both amazing and you're doing amazing work. So thank you so much, Tarnisa. Thank you so much, Sonia. Also a big thank you to Jose working behind the scenes to make all of this happen. I appreciate all of you. And for National Kidney Month, I'm going to ask everyone watching to do me a big favor. I need you all to check your heart on your license to see if you are a registered organ donor. So what you want to do is take a look at your license, see if you have that red heart on there to signify that you are a registered organ donor. If you don't have that heart there, there's a good chance you're not registered. If you would like to be registered, if you'd like to learn more information about organ and tissue donation, I would encourage you to go to our website, golm.org, to find out more about all the amazing things that take place here at Gift of Life Michigan and how you can one day save a life. There's also some other information scrolling down at the bottom of your screen. I would also encourage you to check out the National Kidney Foundation of Michigan's page. Also, Hurley Medical Center has a website as well, which is also displaying. And if you have more questions for Tarnisha or for Jocelyn, that has also scrolled at the bottom of our screen as well. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. I hope that you have enjoyed this live stream. I think this is probably my favorite of all the ones that I've ever done. I hope that you all have an amazing day, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.